Selamat pagi Rehan. Terima kasih
Jadi,
sudah bersama dengan saya di sini di majalah Buset. Terima kasih juga sudah bersedia untuk diinterview mengenai your life as a young entrepreneur sebagai co-founder dari AutoClicks. Kami mungkin mulai dari pertanyaan yang pertama kali ya. Kenapa bisakah diceritakan sedikit tentang background kamu? How do you end up being an entrepreneur? How is it that leads to that?
ya,
Silakan.
First of all, thank you for Buset for having me here. Jadi mungkin
Ya.
sedikit nama saya Martin ya, I'm the CEO and co-founder of AutoClicks. Jadi memang sebelum AutoClicks, saya adalah konsultan khususnya untuk Ernst & Young, particularly EY Platinum. So my background adalah di management consulting. So I was a management consulting di Jakarta. Even before then, I studied in Melbourne, was a management consulting juga di sana, helping beberapa retail company to adopt the omnichannel retail model to create the offline to online approach. Dari situ sebenarnya saya lihat bagaimana potensi offline to online atau integrasi teknologi to help retail shops. Dan sebenarnya melihat pasar di Indonesia sendiri, waktu itu kita udah melihat bahwa O2O itu sudah diaplikasikan ke beberapa industri. Contohnya dari bidang perhotelan, ada Oyo Hotel. Di bidang warung, ada Warung Pintar. Di bidang warteg pun juga ada Wahyu. Namun, saya belum melihat adanya untuk otomotif. Karena sebenarnya saya sendiri sejak SMA sendiri itu I was a automotive fan. Jadi akhirnya I was an automotive fan, so I had a Honda Jazz fully modification from the car. Jadi dari situ I begin to see bagaimana kita mengaplikasikan O2O ini ke perbengkelan. Dari situlah awal singkat cerita on bagaimana dari pengalaman-pengalaman saya selama consulting yang memang sebelumnya udah melakukan consulting project untuk O2O, I saw the opportunity or the gap melihat apa yang saya memang lumayan passionate about, which is automotive space, on transforming, particularly di Indonesia sendiri. Especially gimana pun meskipun I was a consultant, I'm an entrepreneur in heart. Jadi my family juga entrepreneur. So jadi dari pertama pun even sebelum kuliah, there's always this sensation untuk I want to start something myself. Karena gimana pun I want to make impact. Tapi waktu itu ketika in university I'm still figuring out what to do. Namun melihat apa opportunity-nya dan masalah dan kembali lagi dengan passion yang I have in automotive, that's how I came about AutoClicks.
Oh wow. That's really brilliant. Sounds really great ya, Ryan. Luar biasa sekali dan setahu saya juga, saya panggil Martin atau Rehan ya. Maybe Martin aja ya, because you introduced that. So Martin, let me ask you. Setahu saya, menurut catatan saya, AutoClicks ini dimulai baru-baru ini juga ya, nggak terlalu lama juga, karena mengingat Martin juga baru lulus dari Melbourne Uni itu baru-baru ini juga ya, in like less than 5 years ago. So AutoClicks ini juga adalah ditemukan oleh 2 orang ya, kamu dan Joseph. So
actually
boleh bertiga? Wow. Yes. Boleh diceritakan nggak sama pendengar semuanya asal mula AutoClicks ini bagaimana? Bagaimana kalian bertemu as like fellow co-founders, and how do you bring this whole startup from zero to what it is right now?
Okay. Jadi mungkin tadi I briefly mentioned about the startup AutoClicks, or at least how the idea came about. Jadi memang dari dulu I was an automotive fan, memang hobi di otomotif. Kebetulan saya dan co-founder saya itu kebetulan si Joseph, our dads atau orang tua kita itu juga business partner. So kita sudah kenal from way back then. Nah, di mana waktu itu when I came about to the idea terkait bagaimana kita integrate O2O di otomotif, I pitched the idea to Joseph terkait menurutmu gimana ini? Karena we have a lot of conversation, tapi over beers usually the case untuk menceritakan terkait O2O otomotif ini atau at least the bigger business lain. Dari situ si Joseph mengatakan bahwa sebenarnya he was in the States back then, he was still working for ada aerospace manufacturing facility. Jadi dia membuat kabel untuk satelit as well as proprietary wind turbine. Jadi waktu itu I pitched the idea and he told me sebenarnya it's an interesting idea, tapi he has no idea sebenarnya tentang otomotif. Nah dari situ he introduced me to one of his family yang juga merupakan co-founder kita satunya. His name is Benny, relatively older than us. Basically dia memang sudah di industri otomotif sudah lebih dari 20 tahun. Dan memang pengalaman dia di otomotif cukup besar. So waktu itu kita bertiga, kita brainstorm, looking into apakah memang bisnis O2O di otomotif itu sesuatu yang kita bisa aplikasikan. Dari situlah kita akhirnya short story, kita discuss, and we decided all three of us untuk build the idea together to what is AutoClicks right now. And I can guarantee the initial days wasn't easy. Gimana pun, even till now we're still learning. Jadi pertama kali kita didirikan kan kurang lebih it was 2019. Awal mulanya kita masih part-time, Sabtu August 2019 baru kita mulai serius. Dimana at that point, I think we only have less than 10 people. So what yang dimana posisi CEO, it's not Chief Executive Officer. Instead, itu adalah Chief Everything Officer. Jadi gimana pun, there are a lot of problems dari mulai even hiring orang pertama, converting bengkel. Ada sempat sesekali kita di mana at a point awal-awal pasti semua founders kita keliling yang ke bengkel kirim barangnya sendiri, nge-sales ke bengkel. Ada certain points kita dianggap juga seperti kayak agen asuransi karena kan I was a consultant jadi pakai baju rapi juga Pak ini bocah-bocah agen asuransi atau MLM siapa ini. Jadi there were a lot of problems, but I do believe itu that's the beauty of the process. How each step of the way dari pertama kali. Dari situ, I get to understand my customers more, which is the car owners, bengkel, karena gimana pun kita melihat langsung ke lokasi, dari situ kita pun bisa mengerti and relate ke bengkel-bengkel tersebut. Nah, dari situ, that's the foundation that I built my company juga, untuk to all my team as we scale our company juga, di mana kita selalu ada company values on go and see, that's driven Genji Genbutsu principle dari Toyota. Basically, you gotta observe yourself. Jadi itulah prinsipal yang kita dapatkan in the early days bahwa kita dengan turun sendiri melihat and so on, it helps to understand our problems. There were a lot of pivots, pasti ada perubahan dari segi business model, menyesuaikan dengan apa yang diperlukan customer. And well, the rest is history. Although masih banyak yang kita harus perbaikan, there are a lot of improvements needed. Namun sekarang kita juga udah mulai didukung dengan tim yang lebih kuat, and kembali lagi it all comes back yang kita lakukan what we gotta observe masalahnya customer kita apa and cater for it accordingly.
Alright, itu tadi sounds very wow. Saya sangat impressed ya, terutama dengan yang sudah diceritakan tadi, you build up this company straight from the ground. Harus langsung turun ke lapangan sendiri untuk build it up dari zero to like what it is right now. So I'm quite curious, what is the key pivotal moments, critical factors apa yang menurut kamu tuh bisa membawa AutoClicks jadi successful how it is right now?
Okay, I guess itu juga to answer that question ada internal and external factors for sure. Jadi otomatis kita me and my other co-founder kan kita juga masih relatively young, and so we are also learning as we go on how to build business, how to build startup. The key pivotal or basically the key driving factor yang to make AutoClicks what it is right now adalah otomatis mentors. So I have a lot of mentors. Jadi mentor saya pun juga udah bosen dengerin saya. So every single jadi I usually called him. So this my mentor ada beberapa. Salah satunya juga the co-founder of Ware6, basically the largest logistics startup di Indonesia right now, basically. Jadi kita sering diskusi sama dia, menanyakan pendapat dari dia, and so learning about the process, what he has actually faced prior or di awal-awal juga. Jadi I guess that's one of the biggest pivotal moment untuk kita, karena gimana pun insight-insight yang kita terima, how we see things or how we see the problem is very important. Nah, I guess that's the major contributing factor. Jadi, tapi memang pasti ada faktor-faktor kecil yang kita mungkin seringkali ketika kita ngomong sama customer, kita melihat, oh ternyata bukan ini loh customer yang mau. And so kita coba eksperimen lagi. Jadi namanya eksperimentasi in the early days was the biggest thing that we've done yang juga comes about what the business model or the product right now. Jadi the second point selain mentors, then secara lebih bisa ke eksternal karena ngikutin apa yang customer mau and so on. We need to do a lot of experimentation. There was a point setiap minggu kita pasti akan ada eksperimen baru yang sampai dengan kadang kita nggak bisa keep track, which is a mistake actually. I don't recommend that. Experiment too many itu juga it is good and accept that you won't have focus. Jadi kembali lagi dari ngomong sama customer, kita ngelihat sebenarnya what is the user's delight, how to build a product that delights the customer, not only that they need, not only that they want, but provide delight. Yang mana dari situ kita eksperimentasi terkait A, B, C, D, F, G untuk melihat mana yang provides the best delight for the users or the customers in this case to build whatever the product we have right now. Jadi kembali lagi two factors to recap. First of all, mentors is very important for me karena gimana pun as an early stage founder we need to learn, read books, content is everything because I think what Nadim said like bahwa you gotta have a growth mindset, not only from the company level but on a personal level. So you gotta absorb all the content. So that's very important. Pertama, kedua adalah experimentation. We failed multiple times for sure. But every failure gives us one step forward. Jadi we did a lot of experimentation based on the basis of talking to the customers gitu.
Wow. So obviously dari what you said ya, not everything is smooth sailing at times. Pasti there are times where those kind of like experimentation happens and you have to kick in and like you have to like pivot, change things, change strategy. What are the challenges though? Like when saya yang sebagai orang Indonesia udah lama tinggal di luar negeri, whenever we think about Indonesia as like a market itu kan terutama yang what's glaring to me kalau misalnya things are talking about like starting to go into like online things, Indonesians internet doesn't work that well. Is that a challenge or like is there more other challenges kayak mungkin regulasi dari pemerintah atau other things? What are the challenges when you're like working as a tech startup in Indonesia?
Yeah. Pertama-tama maybe to put it out there, Indonesia is a huge market with about kalau di Indonesia there are about 135 million vehicles. With the automotive aftermarket saat ini at about $20 billion, growing about 10% per annum based on my own market sizing. Namun, memang as you mentioned, any developing countries, mau di Indonesia atau di tempat-tempat lain, there are challenges. Yang pertama adalah terkait infrastructure. Infrastructure is very important. Infrastructure in this case doesn't mean cuma physical or land infrastructure. Payment infrastructure is still considered a huge pain point, yang dimana because of the lack of infrastructure terkait internet infrastructure and so on, itu ultimately juga lead to potentially digitalization to be lebih lambat juga. Nah, right now the process has been speed up because of COVID. Tapi if we're talking then, sebenarnya kita juga udah kebantu di mana adanya kayak Tokopedia, Gojek, Grab, Bukalapak, Traveloka, di mana that was the first pivot point untuk banyak orang Indonesia di sini untuk memulai melihat namanya digital or technology. Jadi dari situ sudah pelan-pelan orang sudah mengenal namanya teknologi. Kita kebantu dari mereka. It will be different if we did this 10 years ago. Karena gimana pun startup, not only from the idea, the problem, and the solution, the market, the most important part is why now, the time. Nah, jadi timing kita waktu kita masuk juga cukup pas, di mana Tokopedia dan lain-lain penetrasi ke market cukup besar. So the open-mindedness untuk orang-orang untuk adopt technology itu juga cukup tinggi. Meskipun gimana pun, as you know, the technology adoption cycle, ada yang early adopters, ada yang early majority, tapi juga we have the laggards, right? Nah, itu ya pasti tetap ada. Namun, my 2 cents or my advice is that select who the power users or at least the early adopters. Focus on that. Build your product to satisfy the early adopters for your particular market. Karena gimana pun, I do believe sekarang market Indonesia udah mulai open. Everyone is using technology right now. Smartphone penetration has been growing very rapidly. I think internet penetration right now is about 70 to 75% di Indonesia right now. Jadi it's pretty high considering with especially COVID di sini juga, di mana it speed up all the process. Meeting semua sekarang udah Zoom, semua orang sudah malas pakai cash, pakai GoPay, OVO and everything. Jadi with the opportunity is there, the timing is right. Jadi memang pasti ada yang tetap don't want to adopt technology, but focus on the ones that is your target focus, which is the early adopters and the early majority. Double down on your solution to that. Nanti lama-lama mereka juga akan mengikuti. So coming back to your question, to recap a little bit, yes, there were some problems, tapi kita juga kebantu karena dengan unicorn-unicorn yang udah ada saat ini, dan juga dengan pembantuan COVID, the process of adoption juga jauh lebih tinggi. The rate of growth we can see after COVID is just crazy. So with that in mind, timing is very important, and I do feel the timing in Indonesia right now is definitely now.
Oh, you mentioned COVID like several times for now. Actually, before you mention it, I thought that like COVID itu mungkin malah jadi suatu faktor yang memperhambat development dari bisnis AutoQuick ya menurut saya. Karena selama pandemi kan orang tidak keluar-keluar. Bagaimana selama pandemi ini kalian coping dengan itu?
Definitely. COVID itu sebenarnya, I wouldn't say tadi maksudnya COVID membantu bisnis kita. COVID helps the entire digital industry, not to our business. Karena gimana pun otomotif offline business, orang nggak keluar. Even waktu lockdown pertama dari Maret sampai Agustus, sekitar 80% partner atau mitra bengkel kami juga disuruh close. Karena basically so we were affected pretty badly, but it's actually a blessing in disguise in a way. Karena the major drawback of a startup is that they always have a growth mindset, where they want to grow. Tapi mereka tidak mempertimbangkan terkait workflow, SOP, or cost structure, which is very important. And the product juga, auditing the product and the tech. Jadi throughout the COVID, di mana kita secara operation nggak bisa grow, but we need to do something, right? Bukan berarti kita cuma ngopi aja. We need to rethink our business strategy, our business model, our cost structure to make it much more efficient. Nah, jadi dari situ, we prepared during the COVID. Yes, revenue, everything, we got hit pretty badly. But the foundation of the operation, the tech, the marketing strategy, the finance, the cost structure is being optimized untuk mempersiapkan ketika COVID sudah mulai kembali recover. Which on average ketika Indonesia udah mulai membuka, meskipun memang belum recover, we are in a position untuk bisa scale or at least grow in a better direction karena fondasinya udah di-set. Dan sebenarnya itu menjadi blessing untuk kita karena company lain pun dengan kondisi COVID ini, kompetitor malas masuk karena ya marketnya lagi kurang menarik. Namun, not only we have the first mover advantage, we have a long first mover advantage to become the market leader to what it is right now. Gitu. Jadi sekarang baru muncul, I heard ada beberapa, tapi dengan COVID itu, pertama we optimize our operations, our business process in a way, di mana dari situ kita, ketika COVID udah selesai, bukan COVID udah selesai, basically it alleviates to a certain extent. We were able to scale in a much rapid manner, karena ya kembali lagi, we're not Tokopedia, so the market is still big, our market share is still small, so for us to grow even with the market size shrink, masih there's huge room for prospective growth there. Jadi dari situ we were pretty fortunate, in fact, and meskipun waktu itu secara operation kita terhambat, tapi karena dulu kita adalah perusahaan yang sudah EBITDA positive since day one, even with the funding that we received, we didn't even use the funding at all just to sustain. Jadi itu juga karena menggunakan internal retained earnings kita, even with COVID, we were still able to pay our team, we were still able to do our operations and etc.
Wow, menarik sekali waktu Martin ngomong soal funding ya sebetulnya, karena itu tie up really nicely to my next question. Karena you as a young entrepreneur, probably like funding ya, itu salah satu, other than like brilliant ideas, skills, and everything else, mungkin funding is a very critical ways of like managing a business and growing your business. How would you, if you don't mind, like me asking, how would you get or secure your funding gitu? Gimana kamu mulai dari mengumpulkan modal ini untuk bisnis? Silahkan.
First of all, I want to correct the statement saying that capital funding is most important in helping a business. That is wrong for me. I think many people have that mindset, which I don't believe is right. Funding expedite the growth. It doesn't correlate to a successful business. A successful business correlates based on you building something to what the customers need or based on the customer delight. The funding helps to make that happen. Yes, you do need funding. Tapi one mindset that I really hate in a lot of startups adalah you burn all the way. That's not the right way. Our principle of business, you got to be self-sustaining. You got to build your team for sure. That means, there's certain investments you need. Tapi you got to make sure you're self-sustained karena you never know what will happen. Jadi funding is only to expedite the growth. Bukan sebagai the single source of determinant whether you're successful or not. That's one I want to put it out there. Jadi yes, banyak orang memang impressionnya salah. That's what I was being taught setelah diajarkan oleh Sequoia juga. Nah, so I think this is a good transition to terkait secure funding. Jadi kebetulan memang kita sudah raise 3 kali kurang lebihnya. Pertama kali from our angel, which is he's a CEO of a large startup waktu itu. Kita juga pernah raise dari Sequoia Search, Sequoia Capital from Search India waktu itu, basically alongside sama ada beberapa lainnya juga di dalam sana. And lastly, kita kemarin Januari juga we received an investment dari co-founder of YouTube, Steve Chen, co-founder of YouTube, several Google executives waktu itu invested in us. So how the funding itself sebenarnya kembali lagi. As a startup, you need to be very mindful on how you use your capital. Karena kembali lagi, people believe in you, right? So the goal on getting a funding in a way adalah how do you make sure not only that your business runs, but you are the right person or the founders or the whole company is the right team to execute the idea. Because idea is easy to build. Execution is key. Jadi with the funding received, basically, I guess you got to prove that in a way, and funding doesn't correlate with a successful thing. So getting the funding somehow will not be easy, definitely, karena you're getting uang dari orang lain. Mau dapat uang dari bank itu susah kan. Jadi kembali lagi, tapi if you do have the conviction, if you're building something meaningful, and you have the right solution to the right users, and you prove yourself that you can execute with certain level of traction, getting funding is not going to be a problem. Karena at this point in time, information is transparent. Jadi mulai dari LinkedIn and so on, getting the investors is easy. Convincing the investors up to the point yang mereka transfer, itu yang lebih susah. Bukan ke depan pintu investornya. Jadi that means you gotta have the good idea, high execution, early users delight, early product market fit, we say, for seed, and therefore the right conviction that you are the right team that can execute this.
Thank you. That's very eye-opening sekali ya statementnya dari Martin. Really convinced me that like ternyata walaupun funding itu penting, but it's not everything. Obviously ada so many other critical factors untuk convince investor dan segala macamnya. I have a question though. Maybe kita mau backtrack sedikit ya, because Martin, you're like a former Melbourne alum, dulu juga pernah study di luar negeri. Do you think that your experience living abroad itu actually influence like how you conduct your business, how you started even, and later on when you're dealing, obviously your investors, I guess mereka juga not solely from domestic investors, not only from Indonesia. You mentioned Steve Chen earlier, which is not Indonesian. So all of those like experience from living abroad, studying abroad, does that help you in some ways waktu you're like managing Autoclicks?
Okay. Kalau we can definitely helpful. Jadi first of all, kalau kita ngomong secara university terlebih dahulu ya, memang I study untuk finance and accounting. Memang ada kaitannya sama perbengkelan. Namun What yang university taught you juga yang tidak secara dijelaskan secara eksplisit adalah bagaimana you see a problem, melihat sebuah masalah, and you break it down into pieces and you solve it accordingly. Memang waktu itu lebih spesifik to, let's say, accounting and finance. Jadi sebenarnya to a certain extent, kamu juga udah diajarkan terkait real life case study or breaking certain problems. Jadi memang secara university garis besar, it helps you a lot, particularly in your professional life, whether you're starting your own company or you're working for someone else juga. Dan kebetulan waktu di tenure aku di Melbourne Uni, back then, I took a subject namanya management consulting. It's the best decision I have. Jadi karena you get to experience, bisa mengalami langsung real life world consulting project, langsung melakukan consulting, meet people, ketemu orang, dan memberikan solusi terkait masalah itu. Di mana kamu bisa mempelajari apa beberapa hal terkait breaking down problems into sub pieces, metrics apa yang di-measure, and what kind of solution based on certain data to support that to provide the solution. So that definitely helps, whether throughout my consulting career ataupun to my business right now. Karena gimana pun, it's all about problem solving. It's all about problem solving. It's the main important thing is how to problem solve by looking into the gaps or look into it in a different way that other people might see it. That's the most important thing. Nah, terus waktu di Melbourne, kebetulan kan juga I work part-time sambil di Catch Group. Catch Group is basically, kayak Tokopedia-nya Australia back then. Till now, actually. Jadi dari situ, sebenarnya two things that I learned which contribute the most in terms of what we have right now. Catch Group back then itu juga masih sebuah startup. I was the only Indonesian there. I was the only one. In the project waktu itu, business development and marketing in a way. Kita waktu itu, dari situ kita mempelajari bagaimana culture perusahaan atau culture terkait managing people atau culture or company value di Australia. Although yes, we cannot apply 100% to Indonesia, but looking at the different options to consider some of the good parts to apply it in Indonesia is still possible. Contohnya, in Australia, they are a sole believer in autonomy, di mana delegation and empowerment terkait autonomy for each of the team is very important. Waktu di Catch Group, they won't just micromanage atau memberitahu kita any single direction that you need to do, which is technically banyak di Indonesia melakukan hal itu. Not all startups, tapi banyak in conventional companies yang cuma mengikuti apa kata bos. In Australia, you have the freedom. You have the freedom to be creative. And I guess that's what I brought to the company, di mana we set clear vision. Apa yang sebenarnya kita mau achieve. We set clear big picture. We set the direction. What we provide creativity to each of the team. Karena kembali lagi, to build an enduring company, bukan cuma dari segi founders, tapi segi tim. Dan if you hired good people, you gotta give them the autonomy untuk mereka menjadi kreatif. Your job is to create the alignment and direction to make sure they achieve or heading to the right way.
Very impressive. You mentioned already that your background is actually in finance and accounting, yeah? While you are actually operating in a tech startup. How is that going to play? Like, there is a common conviction juga yang kalau misalnya ada suatu pendapat lah, kalau sebagai one of the key untuk bisa jadi seorang startup founder yang successful, especially when it comes to like technology, you have to have a background in IT. Is that true?
That was my initial conviction juga dulu sebelum
really?
I about startup work, but I don't believe that. I don't believe that, but I guess it depends. It depends which sector. Gitu. Kalau if you're building a SaaS company, for example, a software as a service, most likely kamu harus ada tech background. If you're building a enterprise software solution, kalau nggak punya tech background juga akan susah. But if you're building what we're building or what like Gojek is building, yes, technology is very important. But also, sebenarnya the most important thing is from the product standpoint, the product management, how you build the product. You don't need to have a tech background. You can have people that can build the tech for you. Although I do recommend you to have a tech founder, co-founder, at least. Tapi I strongly disagree if having a technical background positively correlated to successful startup company. Karena kita bisa lihat sebenarnya Gojek, Nadim juga bukan technical background. He's a management background, right, in a way. Karena dia juga came from consulting.
Yep, just like you.
Yeah, just like me. And so, I do believe it depends on the industry. I do believe we're in the point right now that it's more on how you see the gaps, on how you execute the idea. It's not always from technology is very important, tapi bukan berarti is the sole factor that determine success. Karena you can build the best product, tapi kalau kamu nggak punya go-to-market strategy yang tepat, yeah, no one is going to use it. But same goes the other ways. If you have the best go-to-market strategy, but if you don't have a product, there's no point. So you got to have a balance of both. But doesn't mean technology is the determining factor. Tapi memang awal-awal, karena kita kan juga kebetulan co-founders, we don't have any technical co-founder. Kebetulan aku juga during waktu di uni sempat ngambil elective computing juga. Jadi I understand it to a certain extent. Jadi awal-awal ya kembali lagi chief everything officer ya ikut ngoding sedikit-sedikit untuk build the MVP. Tapi ya there's a limit, of course. Jadi ya kembali lagi, it's more on how you build the product. If building the product doesn't always mean from the tech stack and so on, tapi lebih ke whether this product is something that would delight the users.
Really good quote. Well, Martin, saya sangat impressed ya dari awal kita udah bicara soal how you start everything. I really like what you say about like chief everything officer. It's quite that's something that's stuck in my mind. Maybe untuk last questions. Do you have any tips and tricks for fellow young entrepreneur out there, especially mungkin adik kelas kamu yang masih student and they really want to like start into like creating startups whether in Indonesia or abroad. Any tips and tricks how to start, how to like succeed, and how to maybe like certain challenges that they should avoid?
Yeah. I cannot advise on how to succeed. Karena to be honest ya, kita juga masih it's a long way to go. I cannot say whether we're successful yet because it's a long journey. That's one thing. Jadi, tapi some tips for sure to get it started. First of all, get some internships, get some experience wherever it may be. Tidak harus di startup. It can be dari consulting, it can be dari audit, it can be the investment banking, it can be from maybe marketing agency, whatever. Because the internships itu would help you build your mindset. You'll start seeing the real world. That comes back to my second advice. Talk to people, network yourself, talk to professional people, try to approach call LinkedIn yang mungkin udah pernah kerja startup, try to understand. You gotta absorb the content, you gotta absorb what they're doing. Jadi talk to people juga akhirnya read content, whether it's books, newspapers. If you are interested in tech, then you should understand what's the tech landscape. Ada bisnis apa aja, apa yang mereka lakukan. There are a lot of contents out there that you can actually learn from. So, jadi dari situ try to absorb konten-konten yang udah ada di sini untuk mempelajari real life world itu. Jadi, of course, enjoy yourself is also very important to a certain extent. Jadi, I do believe you gotta start your game early, dimanapun. Doesn't mean that ide pasti langsung datang, karena luck is a huge factor as well. If you're lucky, then you might get it early. Karena one of our biggest factor, if you ask me, one of our biggest factor yang determines what we can be right now is luck. That's the biggest thing.
Oh wow.
Ya, ketika, for example, kita kebetulan hoki ketemu customer yang baru, ketemu there's this consulting project, so luck is a huge factor. Jadi, but learn not only from what university taught you, but I do believe university will help you a lot. Yang dimana orang-orang mikir, aduh kuliah nggak ada gunanya, meskipun cuma teori. I do believe the foundation sets you on the right path to be able to think on some of the things. And don't be afraid on actually fail. Like I know it's cliche, but that's true. It's impossible for you to succeed without at least thousands of failures. Like in a single day kita bisa fail nggak tahu berapa kali. It's more on how you see the failures. I know it's cliche, but yeah, I guess kalau ada orang yang bilang ke aku juga kayak, wah failure is very important dulu ya. I thought it was cliche, but after feeling it, I know it's necessary. And you can ask whoever's out there, and they would definitely say, I would be very pessimistic. I would be saying that they're lying kalau mereka sukses dan mereka bilang aku nggak pernah fail seumur hidupku. That will be they will not be saying the truth at all on that. No truth at all. Unless they're super, 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 super lucky. And even then, I don't think so.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Martin. That's really insightful. Terima kasih buat waktunya. Ini benar-benar suatu interview yang hopefully akan bisa menginspirasi lebih banyak lagi yang entrepreneurs out there. Thank you, and I will stop the recording here.
Okay, thank you.